So, hi everyone, this is our first live together, and let me first share to the family's hangout. So, on Facebook, we are now, for the first time, doing. Okay, so we are doing live on YouTube for the first time. This is also my first live on YouTube and on Facebook at the same time. And we are actually planning to make it something regular that we do once in a while. And the subjects that we are going to be talking about are mostly about leadership in the family. Okay, so the reason that we wanted to do it is that over the 20 years that we are married, we feel like we have developed maybe a unique way of how we're raising our children and how we're running our household and our communication style and the interactions within our family. And so these are going to be the subjects that we're going to be talking about. And we are going to share a lot of tools that we are using that we have been taking over the years from the different fields where our professional expertise, where we usually in leadership positions. And we just are bringing these tools, especially agile tools, to our household. On some other live, we're going to explain more about what Agile is. And today, we really wanted to focus about where we came from, because we came from very different places, and how we bridge over those differences to be able to really communicate well and raise our children the way that we want to raise them. Do you want to talk a little bit about where you came from?
Yeah, well, I think that part of the discussion is a lot about how we, even though we come from different backgrounds, we kind of share some certain values, and we learn how to use some tools to work together to be able to get to where we want to get to, not just professionally, but also in the family with the kids and in our relationship, right? And like you were saying, we have these different tools that we use professionally, and it's interesting to see how we take some of those agile tools, or tools that we might use in the workplace or in a professional environment, and bring them into the house, into the home, into the relationship to deal with the same kind of problems or challenges that you might see in a work environment, right? Things that change all the time. Some unexpected things happen, changes in priorities, right? Conflicts between people, conflicts between kids, conflicts between us, and sometimes you can use the same tools in both directions, and it's interesting. It's interesting to talk about, right? For everyone to see how that works.
Yeah. So just a little bit about how we met and how we actually got here. I grew up in a kibbutz in Israel. I didn't have a phone in the house until I was 14. We had black and white TV, and then grew up in New York City, in Spanish Harlem. Very different places, very different environment, very different parenting styles and family styles from our families.
Well, why don't you explain a little bit about what just a little bit about your childhood, about how it was growing up, and what you got from
it. So the kibbutz back then in Israel used to be a shared community, very safe. People didn't have a regular income. Everybody worked in whatever the kibbutz needed, the community needed at that time, and made the same amount of money. We shared everything. We ate together. Everybody did the laundry at the same place. A lot of animals, fields, banana plantation, basically a farm. Um, the kids community played a very big part for kids that grew up in the kibbutz at that time. We even slept together at night in the kids' house. I didn't sleep at my parents' house until I was 3 years old. I don't remember that, but I do believe that's affecting my parenting.
So all the kids were together in the same house.
Yeah, there was ideology behind that, and also functional reasons. But I think maybe we're gonna get into it more.
It's just
later. But just to explain,
background.
Very, very safe environment where, very safe and happy, and a lot of nature. And so that's where I grew up.
Yeah, I mean, you had the good parts of having a safe place to live, people that were caring for you and watching you around you all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And kind of a closed environment where you lived inside this community that everything you needed was in that place.
Yeah, and within that community, my family, my parents, my brother, and my sister, my grandparents, all living there, and we were very close and still are very, very close family.
So it was also a complete household, meaning that your parents were together. Maybe you didn't see them as much when you were younger, but they were still together. You could see them whenever you wanted. They were together.
Yeah.
And the rest of your family was also there. So
yeah.
So I mean, there's a big contrast. I'm not saying that I came from like the worst place in the world, but I grew up I was born in Spanish Harlem in New York, and my parents got divorced pretty early when I was younger. So I came from like a single parent household with my mother most of the time. And we kind of moved between the Bronx and Harlem, kind of going back and forth. And I was born in the housing projects in New York. So some people know about that. They're basically, areas where a lot of low-income families moved in to live. It was supposed to be a nice environment for low-income families to live, but it ended up turning into something a little bit less pleasant than that. But when I was growing up there, I didn't feel, you felt there was a certain amount of danger, but you learned to deal with that and to work around it, right? How to survive in that kind of an environment, how to be aware of your surroundings and stuff like that. I guess that's something that, on one hand, it's good to have that as a kid. On the other hand, it's a little bit sad that you need to have that as a kid, when you came from an environment where you're safe. You didn't need to develop that kind of a skill set so early. But anyway, growing up in between the Bronx and Spanish Harlem and stuff, it was a different environment from being in a kibbutz. And I guess I got to the same values, I think, that Rotem got to, but from a different channel, from a different direction, right? Kind of seeing what was happening inside my family, my parents getting divorced, and how I didn't want to go through that myself, and I didn't want my kids to go through that. Like, that was something that I was very aware of later on in life. I didn't want my kids to go through that same situation, and kind of having that experience of being in a dangerous place and learning how to be aware, learning how to walk the walk and talk the talk in that environment. But there's some things about it that I don't want my kids to experience. That I want them to experience that kind of danger or the risks that were involved in that. I really want them to see where I'm from and understand where I'm from, and maybe benefit from the experience that I have. But I don't want them to live that kind of a life exactly, right? But I think when it comes down to it, we ended up having the same kind of values, right? Of things that we thought are important for our kids.
Yeah. So in Israel, everybody goes to the army at 18. I just had a discussion with a few American mothers a little while ago, and it makes young people over there very independent. So when I finished the army, I packed my bags and I moved to New York to study dance. I also started training Capoeira, the Afro-Brazilian martial art, and that's where we met. And pretty fast, we found like common language, and the differences weren't that obvious because we had, like Ben said, we had the same beliefs, the same values, and I feel like this is something that makes our marriage and our communication and our interaction. It puts us in a place that is maybe more simple than people that has different values. So this is one tool that I wanted to share today. And, reviewing your own values, what is really, really important to you. There's exercise that I do with clients that, come to learn about their own patterns and their family patterns and their leadership patterns. But basically, try to figure out what are your true values. And it's very possible that if you share them with your life partner or your children, or even your brother or your sister, people that you grow up with, you will find out that you have different values and a lot of communication issues come from there. And the values are so deep in our roots and in our hearts and in our beliefs that we don't even think about them anymore. It's like our guidelines. It's like leading us. So when we just were at the beginning of our marriage life, like 5 years into our marriage life, I would go crazy because Ben used to be late all the time, late all the time. But him and his whole family were always late. And to me, the way I grew up, the way my parents raised me, and the kibbutz, if you're late, you don't respect the other person. That's what it meant to me. And I used to get really offended and really angry. And Ben really didn't understand, what it's about. And it turned into real fights, right? Because I really felt disrespected. But then once we found a way to clear it and talk about it, I understood that, he's late and it's inconvenient for me, but it's not coming at all from where I think it's coming. And then our interaction around all that became different. And instead of, being sad or fight or anything, we started looking for tools of how, to make it more comfortable, convenient for all of us. And
how to work around it.
Yeah, how to work around it. And these are the kind of things that we are going to share, in our lives.
Yeah, because sometimes you can't. It's not like you're gonna necessarily step in and change somebody after after years of them having some specific kind of behavior. They might be willing to change, but it's really it's a two-person thing. Both people have to be in agreement and have to want to make some changes, right? But sometimes it's just about learning how to work around some issues and understanding that sometimes things don't come from a bad place. They just come from either a cultural difference or things like that. But one tool that I think is at the top of my list for being able to have and maintain a relationship. I don't think not just a marriage relationship, but also even friendship, even a professional relationship, even a employer-employee relationship, a teammate relationship is empathy, right? I found that that's probably one of the best tools you can have, or the best qualities that you can have to be able to either overcome or to be able to help your relationship last, to keep your relationship positive. Because if you can put yourself in the other person's shoes and understand how they might feel about something that you're doing, that helps you to have a different perspective and for you to maybe make some changes or at least express things in a different way, right? So that you're taking the other person's feelings or point of view into consideration. So I think that this is something that helped us, besides learning to work around some more complex issues, work around some more really ingrained cultural differences, is having some empathy for us to be able to think about each other's feelings, understand. Like I understood that about timing and time in general, how Rotem started feeling about it, and so I had to really put myself in her shoes and think about this is something I don't want. I wouldn't want to feel that way, right? Even though it wasn't coming from a negative place, I wouldn't want to feel that way myself. So just kind of being empathetic is I think it's a key tool that you use if you want to maintain a relationship with somebody, and it goes across the board. It's not just with your partner or your teammates. It's with your kids or even people around you. You know what I mean? And it makes a big difference with how people regard you when you can think of them and put yourself in their position, and have that kind of consideration for them. I think that in general, people will extend the same consideration to you in most situations.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think for Ben and I, we find a way to create empathy and to feel empathy in a bit of a different way, because, and this is also something that we're going to talk about later on about how everybody is different.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're probably going to share those tools too, and I think we're going to have a whole session about empathy, because we both believe that it's really important, with each other, and like Ben says, relationship with other people too. But if we want to raise kids that, I feel like the world is having some problems now, and I want not just me and Ben, but everybody to raise a new generation of leaders that
empathetic leaders.
Yeah. So this is really one of the main reasons why I even got into working with parents, working with families, because I feel like leadership and change is coming from us. It's coming from the parents being role models for relationship, for communication, for interaction. And
that's one of the concepts of leadership. If you think about leadership, is not just about telling people what to do, but about providing the example and the path for people to follow, to get to a better place, to be better people, or to get to accomplish something or succeed at something, or whatever. I think that's the idea behind leadership, right?
Yep. So I think we're done for today.
I'm happy to hear questions. If you guys want to post some questions and ask us.
Yeah, we will get back to that. I'm just going to say that today, this is was our first session, and we did a live both on Facebook and YouTube. I believe that it's going to be mostly on YouTube, but I'm always going to announce to the group and to everybody when it's going to be, so you can watch it live. But even if you watch it after, you can either send us questions or write them in the comments, and we will always get back to you.
And post questions about things that you'd like to hear us talk about. I think that that we have some pretty decent experience. It's not like we've been married 100 years, but I think we've gone through a lot of different things in all of our different adventures in life. Opening studios and running businesses and working independently and raising kids and traveling. That I'm happy to share some specifics with the community, with everyone. So I think it would be interesting to hear some questions and stuff that we could possibly answer in some of the next upcoming videos.
Yeah, and if any of this resonates with you, please share it with anybody that that can benefit. That's it. Everybody have a beautiful weekend. If you're watching it on the weekend, if you're watching it live, and if not, just generally have beautiful life. And we're here.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, Facebook people. I'm going to finish this one too. Bye.